What's happening, everyone? It's Distance, and I'm back with another Behind the Beat. The last one, we looked through my track Oneness. This time we're going back to a track that was released over a year ago. It's called Sacrifices, and this was released on Duploc. Big up to Peter and to all the Duploc artists. Yeah, I mean, this track came around quite easily, I suppose. But if you're unaware of this one, I will just play you a little section of it so you know what I'm talking about. In case you don't know about me, my name is Distance. I'm a dubstep producer. I was there right from the beginning, before it was even called dubstep. So if you're unsure about me, you can always do a little Google search on Distance and dubstep, and you'll find some information about me. Anyway, let's take a listen. This one, Sacrifices, out on Duploc. There you go. Sacrifices, you get the idea. So I don't know, it's kind of, I mean, I wrote this, God, I actually wrote this quite a while ago. I think I actually made this in 2019, maybe a little bit earlier than that, I'm not too sure. But the way I started this tune is the main, it's all about the main riff, the main melody, which is that do 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 do, which was made using a synth called Strobe. There's two now. There's Strobe 2, and this was made on Strobe 1, which is by F-Expansion. If you're unaware of F-Expansion, they do amazing virtual synths and software. So definitely go and check them out. So this all came about from me just doing like a sound design session. So, I'll call up synths, make some patches, record some melodies, and then if I like something, I'll just, tweak the sound, bounce it, tweak the sound, bounce it again. And so I came up with this piece of audio, which was saved to a folder. I called it up and as I've mentioned before in previous videos, I really like melodies. I believe they help portray, like a vibe, like a feeling. So yeah, and I come from like a metal background, and it's very, I suppose some of it is very melodic, or there's like a riff. Do you know what I mean? Like there's like a main heavy riff of some sorts. So most of my tunes contain a key like melodic part. So I then added drums. Which kind of took it down, a bit of a trappy route. Maybe a bit more glitch hoppy. Sometimes when I do have a melody like this, I will layer that with a sub bass. So I'd have a sub bass doing exactly the same, woo, 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 woo. But in this case, I didn't really like it. It didn't really it seemed a bit too much. So I went with adding an 808 instead, which does this. just kind of assists the main riff. Other musical elements, I have a pad which comes in after a little while, which is this. I like adding little layers like this because it just kind of, again, it creates a space, creates an environment. It's not just straight up beats and bass, it's... There you go. And that pad was, again, that's audio. I'm not doing a lot to that. I'm using a stereo delay. But I'm actually using the stereo delay as a widener. Let me just show you what I mean by that. So basically in a stereo delay, you can have, you've got 2 delays here, and I've panned one left, one right, and I have just the slightest delay between the left and the right, and that creates something called the house effect. You can always Google that to enlighten yourself of that effect, but that effect basically tricks your brain into thinking things are very wide by having a slight delay between the right and the left information. Yeah, there you go. In a nutshell. So anyway, first part of the track, it drops into this main riff. As I said, because I'm kind of from a rock metal background, I'm used to like verses and choruses. I don't always do this with tunes, but in this instance, I've kind of treated it like this part, it is a drop, but it's kind of leading you into like what would be, I don't know, I suppose a chorus section, but there is no singing. I just mean it steps up a gear. So, like I was saying before about how I have kind of like a sound designing session. So in that same session, I would have made this, which is the same melody as the above. But I would have just tweaked the preset I made to create this version. And then I've got this high, melody highs that I've called it, which is an audio bounce. Which is just kind of filling out the tune. It's giving it a bit more momentum. It's kind of like a question answer part. It's like dun, 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 kind of like that's responding to the first half. But I remember making this, and by accident, I left it all going. So bits are actually overlapping the original, and I felt it worked. 'Cause it almost sounded like a bit of like a delay, like it was kind of repeating it, but then giving it an alternative answer, if that makes sense. So yeah, that helped it move along. Like I said, it's given it a bit more momentum. The drums also stepped up a bit. I added this, I called it Hattie's effects. Which basically is the same as these hats. Well, it's this programming. But what I would have done is I would have added some kind of multi-processing to the original hats. So these hats. It might be a bit of delay. It might have been using a glitching effect or something like Effectrix. And it would have given me this sound. And the great thing is because that sounds quite thin and dusty, it works really well with the original hats. It sits on top, but it kind of it makes it different from what was going on previous to this part of my tune. So it's kind of got this weird like breath sound in between the hits, which I really like. Again, for this part of the tune, it's kind of opening up a bit. It's kind of giving it a bit more space, a bit more environment. Oh, I had them muted. So yeah, after this we come to like a little, you know, I could have just jumped straight back from this here, say. I could have gone straight back into that, but for me it's just a bit too no let up. So let's just loop that, you'll get what I mean. So it would have gone like this. Which would have worked, but I just wanted like a little moment of chill before going back into, oh god, I'm knocking over all my equipment, going back into the main drop that we had before. So it goes like this here. There we are. But it helps us. This helps us because we're kind of stripping it down. We're setting a different tone and a feeling, which kind of like gives you a moment to breathe, and then bang, we're straight back in. And just so things don't get boring, so I'm not repeating myself too much, I pitched down the main bass melody. So this was the original, and now I've gone down an octave. And that's the beauty of audio. It's so easy to just transpose it in Cubase. You know, you've got it highlighted, and up here you've got transpose. You just click and drag. Simple, done. Not having to change any MIDI patterns or anything. This stays the same for 8 bars, and then we drop back into what I call the chorus again. So I always think one of the biggest tasks or challenges in producing tracks is for it to be, I mean, some people's tunes are so simple, it doesn't sound like a lot is happening, and I find that difficult because in my head I'm like, oh no, people are going to just find this too boring, like it's got to change, it's got to change, it's got to change. And sometimes I try and change things too much. Sometimes like the most simplest beats are the best, but little tricks I do to just help trick people, or you know, giving you a little bit of ear candy to give the perception of change, is, you know, by stripping your beat down, by having like kind of like rises and crash sounds. You know, that's why I had this little section here where it drops right down. So I've got that section coming again, but because I want to switch it so that when we drop back in now, it's kind of like a second drop. So it's not changed too much, but instead of the bass sounds we're used to, I'm using the same melody, but I'm now using a completely different bass or, you know, synthesizer to deliver that melody. And also I'm lengthening out this into a proper breakdown. That was kind of like a mini little, you know, introduction to the next section, but this is like a proper breakdown. So I've copy and pasted this part, which is just this. But instead, now we go into a real strip down and a build up. So yeah, so for that I made this, which I called a drum edit. It's not really a drum edit. This would have been made from that original bass. Like I would have processed it even more. I might have even time stretched it. I'll just play it to you. But I like it 'cause it's kind of stretching it out, kind of makes you feel like, oh, this is weird, but it's still in keeping with the tune. It's like, I recognize this, you know, it's not like I'm bringing something crazy into the track you're not used to. And because I'm processing something that's already in the tune, it just kind of works. Like it sounds like the same palette. Whereas, you know, if I was trying to write something original, I'd be looking, you know, all different synths, trying to find that right sound to work with the tune. This is a quick way to just have that, you know, something additional to keep your interest, but it automatically fits because you're using something, you know, you've twisted something existing, so it's already going to gel together nicely. And then talking about the second drop, like I said, I've just switched up the synth, which is playing that main melody. I believe I used Albino for this. If you didn't know, Albino, I don't think they don't make this anymore. This is the third one. But this is what everyone used in the early days of dubstep. Like most big dubstep tunes from people like Scream, Mala, you know, Benga, myself, we were all using this, and Massive. You know, and you can really hear, you know, it's like a grime patch in it. It reminds me of the old grime days. Yeah, it's a great sound. So let me see what I've done to this. So I've added a bit of Waves R bass. This is basically a bass enhancer plugin. It's basically boosting around the 49 or adding harmonics around the 49 hertz area, which is a lovely area because it makes sub basses and sound systems rattle. Oh, just moving my camera there. So yeah, this is a great plugin for doing that. I've also used this Waves C6, which is a multi-band compressor. I'm using it to process mainly the lower frequencies, just to contain it. And the reason I'm boosting the lower frequencies and kind of trying to squish it a bit is because, if you remember earlier in my tune, I had these 808s as the sub element. So, but I don't have them here because this new bass, the Albino bass, is containing its own sub bass information. So I've basically eked out the low end to so it's solid, so it's thick like that 808, because you don't want to drop into this and you're like, hang on, where's all the sub bass gone? This sounds really, you know, flat and thin. I've got a Q8 EQ on there. I'm just ducking a little bit around 220 hertz. And then I've got an L2. Again, this is further more controlling, because it's like a liquidy modulated bass. You know, there's parts of it that are going to jump up and duck down. This kind of levels it all out and keeps that low end really, really thick. Excuse me. And then that leads us nicely, hang on, here we go, into a lovely little synth which is coming up. I'm also layering slowly back in the original We've got this great synth. Not that, it's this. Absinthe. Oh, absolutely love. If you don't know, I love Absinthe. I can't believe Native Instruments are ditching this synth. So if you're able to get hold of this, just get hold of it now, because I think it's going to go. It may have already gone. If you've got this synth, you need to spend time learning about this, because it's one of the best synths there are. I use it for basses, pads, leads, all sorts. And if you go back to a previous video of mine, I've got a tutorial just on Absinthe 5 and how to use it. It's definitely worth a check. So I made this sound. Really kind of spacey, eerie, a bit Vangelis. I think that's why I called it Angelis. Also, I've got a preset bundle of my own presets, which I'm selling on Bandcamp, which I'll leave a link for if you're interested. Okay, so this is adding a bit of anticipation, bit of emotion to the tune, kind of letting us know that something is going to happen. And that's it. We go straight back into that section, chorus section, that I keep stupidly calling it. And that's the end of the tune. I basically copied and pasted this section. Most people won't admit things like this, but I'm doing it simply because you can see, people like me, a releasing artist, there's nothing wrong with copy and pasting parts of your tune. There probably are some changes in there, but I'm just trying to be honest. Do you see what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to show you that every part of my tunes, just take ages and I'm just working this and tweaking that and just, don't make things too complicated. Like, people that have just got their headphones on and are walking along and listening to your tune, or they're in a club and they're listening to it. Not every listener is analysing your tunes. Do you know what I mean? There's some people who are really into the intricacies of production and how they did this and did that. Oh, this bit's different, that bit moves, and that's great. But not everyone is like that. So there's room for you to get your tunes made quicker by copy and pasting some parts of your tune. But don't tell anyone. That's what I do. So the drums, everyone loves drums, don't they? Everyone wants to know how you make your drums, and how you make them fat and punchy. I don't think I do a lot less processing now on drums than I used to. Let's have a little listen to the drums. So if you're unaware of Cubase, it is amazing. Like, it's amazing. I've used it since I started producing. This is the mixer. These are all your inserts. So, you have channels to bring up the expanded channel. And then these are all your inserts. These are your sends. So some of my drum elements will be sent to an effect. Which is, I have a H delay, very simple delay, but I love it. I have this Abbey Road plates, Abbey Road plates, which is brilliant. Really good for creating like these great spaces. Some of them they can sound really crazy, and some can just be straight up, nothing special, just your normal reverb. So what I like to do with my drums is the main elements, the kick, snare, maybe a hat, is I send via an auxiliary send to a bus, or in Cubase, a group channel, which I've named drums. So if I just solo that. So there's no hats there, it's just the snare, and there's a little kind of wood block which is layered on top of the snare as well. Now the reason I put it to a bus, again I don't always do this because I don't do things the same on every project, but more times than not this is what I do, and it's just so the main elements that are, you know, the kick and the snare, let's face it, and maybe the hats, some of the hats are helping the tune move, you know, they are the rhythm of the tune, you know, so they need to be big, they need to be in your face, and they need to sound banging. So by grouping them together, I'm able to kind of affect them all as one. So I've got this amazing compressor on here. Now you probably can't hear it, I can hear it, people might think I'm crazy, but this compressor, not only is it compressing it, it's adding something, like it's adding a little flavour to it, like slight saturation. So check this out, these are Slate plugins, and this is the Fabrice Gabriel, I think it's the bus compressor, so definitely check this out. They're probably not cheap, but I probably bought this when I was really flush, so it's worth a look at for sure. So this is just catching the snare. If you watch the meter, because that snare is so snappy, this is just catching it, just controlling it slightly, nothing major. And then another amazing plugin, this one by PSP. If you don't know about PSP, you know, you're missing out. And this is just making it thick, like we're not necessarily adding any gain if we watch the meter. Like it's not, I'm not noticing any difference in the meter at all there, but it is subtle, it's making it sound fatter. I've just given it a little push on the drive, little push of the knee, nothing major. And then we've got a clipper on here. This is a free clipper, very good. Now just look for a minute, look at these massive peaks that I'm cutting off. They're doing nothing, do you know what I mean? You can't hear them, they're not adding anything beneficial, they are just massive peaks, which down the line of my processing to my master is going to cause my compressor to go crazy, and my limiter, it could cause ducking, do all kinds of annoying things down the line. So that's why I love a clipper. And then just to further control it, and for no other reason other than I probably thought this was a great idea, I put the L2 Ultra Maximizer. Back in the day, this is what everyone used. All the early dubstep producers, I remember everyone used to whack this on their masters. I still like to use it. I don't use it so much now on the master, but I use it on basses, I use it on drums, even individual drums sometimes. So this is just, again, it's just controlling it, just making it a little bit fatter. It's not really adding any volume, it's just control. And then to further give my tunes some punch, I have created what's called a parallel drum bus, or parallel compression. Do you know what parallel compression is? Maybe you don't, maybe you do, but I have a video on that as well, so go back and have a look at that video. So parallel compression is basically you're sending this drum bus, so your drum information, to another auxiliary channel. And in Cubase that's a group, remember. So this controls how much of it I'm sending to that channel. So I'm sending, I don't know, let's just send all of it there for now. And then, but on this channel where it's being sent to, I am compressing the life out of it. Like I'm really, really squeezing it. And just to further emphasize it, I'm going to put another limiter on there. Hang on. Hang on. Where are you, drums? So anyway, I'm going to show you now what you do. So we're sending our drums channel. Here we are. Bang, bang, bang. It's being sent all the way to our parallel drum bus, where I've got insane compression on, a clipper and a limiter. Sounds over the top. But I'm going to bring it in, fade it in, just enough to kind of thicken up my drums even further, but it won't really be adding much gain if you look at the meter as I bring this in. Okay, so let's listen. You hear that? It is straight away gives you the perception of more volume, thickness, more punch, but we are not making our master any louder. We're not making things peak, which is key. You want things to be, loud, punchy, but you don't want peaks. You don't want it going too loud and crazy, because again, it will cause you problems in your master channel. So this is a great way to thicken stuff up. It's great on vocals, it's great on kicks, it's great on basses, great on your sub. So have a go with parallel compression. And like I said, I've got a video on this. Go and check it out. And if you haven't subscribed, click subscribe as well. So there we are. We've kind of touched upon everything. I haven't gone too deep into the mix because I don't know, I think people overthink the mixing, and my taste for mixing is going to be very different from yours. And there's just basics you need to know. The most important things about mixing, and that is gain staging and, minimal EQing and compression. But don't always jump to EQ and compress. Get your track sounding really good first, just by using the volumes, the gains, whichever you want to call it. So, and if you just, you could finish your tune and mix it, and then just as an experiment, open up, your project again and save it and call it, new mix or whatever you want to call it. Bring everything down to 0. Your mixer, just reset your mixer, take off some plugins, and then one by one practice. Just bring everything in one by one, like your kick, your snare, your bass, and slowly bring everything in like that. Then listen and see if you need to EQ and if you need to compress. And you might do it this way, bounce it and listen to your project that you thought was done, and then listen to this new one, and you might find your new one is even better because you're just mixing and you've started from fresh and you're not going into the red, because we all know you start mixing as you're building your tune. Everyone likes things loud. You start getting a bit louder, and then your snare seems quiet. You turn your snare up, and now your kick's quiet. You turn that up, and then your bass is, before you know it, you're in the red, and it's just it's just a shit show. So anyway, look, this was my walkthrough of my track Sacrifices. I'm going to bring you more of these. It's a shame that everything in this was bounced as audio, but that's just how it goes sometimes. Otherwise, I could have showed you how I made some of the bass sounds in this tune. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to come with another one. Please check out my Bandcamp. I'm going to have a link below where you can buy my music. You can buy my sample packs, my preset packs, merchandise, and please subscribe. And thanks for watching, and I'll be back real soon. Till then, peace.